Hey everybody, welcome to day 9 of my 14-day challenge. So today I'm going to be answering your questions about merch by Amazon. Common questions I always get, typically on email, sometimes on social media, sometimes on the videos here. And I love it when you guys do this. So if you have a question, feel free to put it in the comments. If you have a suggestion for a video, I love it when people do that. And if you see a suggestion or a question that you want a video on, thumbs up that person's comment. And if I see multiple people thumbs upping the question or comment, then I know that's a video others also want to see. So that helps me. First question, and it's a good one. How has my strategy changed since merch by Amazon has gotten more competitive? Great question. The number one thing that comes to mind is I spend way more time on research than I did in the beginning. I got onto merch by Amazon in October 2016. It was a year old at that point, I think a year and 1 month. So it was still pretty new. A lot of people didn't know about it. And I didn't remember spending that much time on research. It's like, oh, you want to do a softball shirt? Oh, I got an idea. I'll put a shirt out there and it sells. I think it took me 48 hours to sell my first shirt. Now, keep in mind, I had some experience with print on demand prior to that, so that definitely helped, but it was also less competitive. So I definitely would say I spent a lot more time on research. So the video that you saw on day 2 with the Punpedia example, when I was showing you how I go through and say, well, let me see what this keyword looks like. I do a lot more of that now, and then probably times 5 from what you saw in the video. I mean, that was a very condensed version of it, but yeah, I spent a lot more time on research. I also do much more of the cross niche ideas where you take like 3 elements in one shirt. So you do, a soccer, dabbing, unicorn shirt. I always use dabbing as an example. That's not something I've really done a lot with. I mean, I have sold some dabbing shirts, but when I give that example, I'm not saying that's a great topic now. I'm just saying that's the kind of thing I do. So you take 3 keywords that are hot and you combine them. But yeah, I really have to tap into my creative space a lot more now that it's more competitive. Next question, what tier are you on? I am on the 6,000 tier and I have 2,400 slots filled, but, big but, I only have 1,500 unique designs uploaded. Okay, let me explain. I can't share too much of this because of the NDA, but I was one of the people that did not have to upload my own international shirts in the beginning. That's all I'm gonna say, okay? So I didn't really have much control over what got uploaded for that. So I had about 900 designs that were uploaded for international. So when you look at your total on your uploads, that includes international, but each country is a new slot filled. So even though it says 2,400 uploaded, it's really only 1,500 designs, unique designs. And that's the number I like to keep track of. So I have been stuck at about 1,300 to 1,500 designs for a while. I really don't fill my slots or work on filling my slots. And I know that sounds crazy, but for me, I have found quality is much better than quantity. I think filling your slots only makes sense if you know that by filling your slots, or if you say to yourself, okay, if I spend a day uploading 100 shirts a day, my income is increasing by 10% or 20%. And if you see that that's making a difference for you, then go for it. But I find the more I upload, my quality suffers. So for me, I would much rather take the time to find some good keywords and maybe spend a week focusing on those keywords instead of just trying to fill my slots. But merch has gotten so much more competitive now. I personally, this is all my opinion, you guys. This is not necessarily facts, but I'm just saying for me, it just seems like it's better to focus on quality over quantity. The only time quantity really helps me is if I know I've got a new keyword that I'm focusing on and it's selling, and the more I upload for that keyword, I make more and more money. Number 3, do you sell more to men, women, boys, or girls? By far, women and girls. Of my top 5 sellers of all time, and if you have Merch Wizard, which is an amazing subscription-based service, it helps organize all your merch listings, and it is a yearly fee, no affiliation, by the way, but I love it because you can easily see how much a shirt has sold and how many returns there have been. You can search and find your shirts. It's an amazing tool, but I can pull up my top 5 sellers very easily, and of my top 5 sellers, they've all been women and girls, and 3 of them have been girls. Now, I sell men's shirts, I sell boys' shirts, but not nearly as much as girls. And doesn't mean because men aren't buying shirts. No, it's just, I think for me, starting with what I know helped. And since I'm a woman and I was a girl, I think that kind of helps me. But I've sold a couple of motorcycle shirts, but I think they just sold because when I uploaded them, merch wasn't as competitive. But I don't know if those same shirts would have sold now, because motorcycle shirts are a lot more competitive now. And boy shirts, I do have some boy shirts that have sold as well. But of the four, groups, men the least, then boys, then girls, then women overall. And I know that's going to vary from person to person. I do sell in a lot of keywords that I don't have a lot of experience with, but I still say starting with what you know is the best place to start. Next question. Have you bought any of your own shirts? When I first got into merch, yes, I would buy them a lot. Not a lot, but more than I do now. Why did I buy them? Because I really, really wanted them to sell. And I thought by, purchasing them, it would help them sell. And I will say this early on, that worked really, really, really well for me. But you could argue, would they have sold anyway? That's something I will never, ever know. But I will say out of the 15 times or so that I've bought my own shirt, I want to say that 80% of the time it has sold again. I am not recommending you necessarily do this, especially if you don't have a lot of money. I don't want people spending money that they don't have, because how do I know that these shirts wouldn't have sold anyway? But sometimes if I just want to kind of give a shirt that I really believe in, I want to make sure it stays out there, I will buy it. And sometimes there's shirts that I would never even wear, so I end up giving them away to people, to their kids or something like that. But yes, I have bought my shirts in hopes that by putting that sale out there, it will get some organic traffic. And it has worked a lot of the time for me, but I don't do that as much now. Next question. Should you buy your way out of the 10 tier? If you have no money, no. If you don't mind spending some money to maybe help you tier up, sure, why not? But there's no guarantee that that's going to work. I think that's the most important thing to note. Now, when I got into merch in October 2016, that was almost a guarantee to get tiered up. And they didn't have the 10 tier early on. They started with the 25 tier. So people were buying 25 shirts just to get to the 100 tier. But the advantage a lot of you have today that I didn't have when I started, I don't know how many of you know this, but we had to really, really work to get to those tiers back in the day. And now it was less competitive. That's the truth. But in order to get to the 100 tier, you had to sell 25 shirts. In order to get to the 500 tier, you had to sell 100 shirts. So you had to sell the number of shirts for the tier that you were on. A lot of people today will sell 8 shirts and then they get bumped up to the 100 tier. So yes, even though it's more competitive, at least it's not as hard to get tiered up as it was in terms of selling the amount of your tier. You don't necessarily have to do that anymore. Just keep in mind, back to the original question, there is no guarantee that buying your shirts is going to help tier you up. There's no guarantee. You got to know that. I don't want anybody going broke and coming to me and saying, Lisa, because of you, I spent my last dollar and now I don't know what I'm going to do. Please don't do that if your funds are tight. The other disadvantage of trying to buy your way out of a tier is you never learn how to sell. So yeah, you'll get more slots and you'll have more room, which can be helpful. But at some point, if you want to make money, you're going to have to learn how to sell yourself. Next question. Do you ever increase your prices? And if so, when? Yes, I talked a little bit about price in another video. If a shirt, let's just say I price low and it's in a competitive space and then it sells and then I bump it up. I do that a lot. Not as much as I used to, but if I am uploading into a competitive space, I do use that sort of price low strategy and then increase the price. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So that's an example when I would increase it. Another time when I will increase the price is if it has a lot of good reviews. Something about good reviews, and this is just me guessing, but it just seems like it just adds more credibility when the shirt has a lot of good reviews. And it's even great. I haven't had this happen, but maybe 8 or 9 times, but I love it when people leave pictures of them wearing the shirt. I have a kids design where the person is showing their daughter wearing the shirt. And ever since that picture was uploaded, I've been getting more sales. I wish Amazon would encourage more of their customers to leave pictures if they're happy, because I think that helps everybody. So if somebody leaves a picture and there's a lot of good reviews, yes, I will bump up the price $1 or $2 just to kind of, see if I can just maximize my profits. And even if there are competing shirts that have similar designs that are priced a little lower, I'll still price a little higher than theirs just because of the reviews and the picture. Now, what about decreasing my prices? Yes, I do. I talked about that in the other video where I've had an original idea and I've noticed the sales have dropped off. And then I'll look and go, okay, copycatters. They've not necessarily pixel for pixel copies, but just somebody that has, adapted my idea or whatever and made it their own or whatever. And then they'll price it a couple of dollars lower and then my sales will drop off. Sometimes when I price lower right at their price or even below, the sales will pick back up again. But that doesn't always work. The other time I will decrease prices is if I have a shirt that has a 1-star review, particularly if the 1 star is because of the quality. I have had that happen where somebody complained that the shirt was very, very thin and they were saying, oh, this is too overpriced at $19.99. And so I will put the price down to like $17.99 and then the sales will pick back up again. Doesn't always work, but again, you just gotta experiment. And this is what I always tell people: keep experimenting. And what works for me might not necessarily work for you. I just gotta keep saying that. Oops, merch sale. Yay. This has been a really, really slow time for merch, you guys, by the way. I don't know if it's the leftover from all the returns going on with Christmas and maybe they've kind of slowed some things. I'm not worried this is a long-term thing, but yeah, it is like 1:00 right now and I'm recording this and I'm at like 12 sales, which is pretty low for me usually. So things have been very, very slow for me lately, by the way, but that cha-ching just reminded me to mention that. Yeah, things have been really slow for me this month so far, but hoping Valentine's Day sales will start coming in a little bit better. Next question. This is the one I dislike the most. How much do I need to make X amount of dollars on merch by Amazon? You guys, with business, that how much question, you guys have to remember, this is a business. Anytime you are selling a product and you're dealing with supply and demand and pricing, it's a business and nobody can guarantee or estimate that because there's just so many factors. Let me just give you an example. When I was on the 25 tier, I had a $6,000 month. Okay. Keep in mind, this is 2017, different time, right? Of that $6,000, I don't remember the number, but I would say 5,000 of that was from like 2 shirts. So if I had not had those 2 shirts, my check would have been like $1,000 or less. I don't remember the numbers. So just 2 shirts made all the difference, right? So imagine if everybody compared their results to mine. You don't know the timing. You don't know, what type of shirt I had, the niche, the pricing. All of those variables make a difference. And there's just no way to estimate how much you can make with how many uploads. I had a student once that was trying to estimate how much they were going to make based on the tier they got to. And I told her, I was like, you can't do that. You don't know what the competition is going to be like then. I was like, you can't estimate. You really can't. And this is why I always tell people, be careful comparing your stats to other people. I saw somebody in the Amazon forum talking about they had a record month and everybody was like, a record month? My sales are down. My sales are down. Everybody's sales were down. Turns out they had a record month because they were on the 10 tier. They had sold 2 shirts the month before and now they'd sold 10. So a record month, it's relative to what tier you're on sometimes, or sometimes you might have one keyword that's hitting that is responsible for 80% of your sales. And anytime that I've had a really big month, typically it's because of a small amount of shirts. So had I not had those shirts that took off, my check would have been so much less. So sometimes you just get a winner that just carries you for that month. And that's why you can't really compare, you guys. Please stop comparing yourself to others or trying to make estimates based on what other people are doing. There are so many variables, and I would be a liar if I said that starting earlier did not help me. Of course, that was an advantage. So you just have to keep all those things in mind. The bottom line is this: merch by Amazon is a great, great side hustle. I would never, ever, ever want to rely on this income. And as an entrepreneur and somebody who's been in this business now full-time for 13 years, one thing I've had to learn to do is diversify my income, live below my means, and not have great expectations for income opportunities where the income is based on traffic that I cannot control. So if you adopt that attitude, if you want to start an online business, especially if you're doing the type of stuff that I do, it's going to take you so far and your stress levels will be so low. But I sometimes wonder about people who quit their jobs for Merch by Amazon, especially those that did it back in 2015 when it was easier. I often wonder, like, what are those people doing today? Because here's the deal, and I don't want to discourage people, but it's easier to scale your income when you're on smaller tiers. But once you get to, let's just say, the 8,000 tier, let's say you've made $15,000 one month and you're trying to scale that or double that. It's much harder for the average person to scale their income once they get past a certain level, because by the time you tier up to these really, really high tiers, the competition has increased, right? And I'm not saying there aren't people that aren't doing that. I'm just saying, just keep your expectations in check here. Have fun. Know that you can make hundreds or even thousands of dollars per month, but try not to rely on it, and understand if you're not driving your own traffic, you don't control this and you don't own this business model, if you will. Just keep that in mind. I don't want to be discouraging, but I just want people to have realistic expectations. Success is very individual. It's about timing. It's about keywords. It's about the design. It's about the niche. There's so many variables and nobody can estimate what you're going to make by how many designs you upload. I saw a guy on a very, very high tier. He was like on the 8,000 tier and he had filled his slots and he was selling 20 per day. Yet I've seen people, and even myself, I was on the 25 tier selling way more than that. So you can see it varies so much. So just keep that in mind. So that's it for this video, you guys. Hope it was helpful. Please don't forget to leave a comment if you have a suggestion for a future video. I am sort of changing up and adapting to the questions with this series. So I welcome any suggestions or, questions. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow.